Hey guys, my name is Brian Kimball and I'm the student pastor here at Trinity, and I just want to welcome you to week 9 of our podcast, the TSM Quaranteens. Man, I'm so excited that you're here. Listen, I'm excited about this week's episode, and here's why. Because technically, this week was supposed to be your last week of school. So technically, we have now entered into the season of summer. Right? Seasons are changing, times are changing, even though they look weird and confusing in our current circumstances. Y'all, if I could give you any positive vibes, it's that it's summertime. And I don't know about you, but when it comes to summer, there are some things that I love. One of those being snow cones. I love a good snow cone. I don't know if you can tell, but I love snow cones a lot. A whole lot. Right? I remember as a kid, I played Little League Baseball just because I knew whether I won or lost. At the very end, I was getting a free snow cone. That was enough for me, right? So tonight, before we get into our topic of changes, I want us to take a look at this video, and it's called Will It Snow Cone? Here you go.
It's time for Will It Snow Cone?
First up, we have E.T. Phone Cone. This is a chocolate and peanut butter Reese's Pieces cone.
Yeah. Oh, Mr. Cone.
Snow
it's still
cone.
a cone.
It's a snow cone. Because that is his obsession.
Right.
You know, that's how E.T. got lured into the house. He's all the time eating the Reese's Pieces.
Yeah, well, not anymore. He's dead. The ice is actually chocolate milk.
Yes.
Frozen chocolate milk. That hadn't been done before.
And then we have peanut butter syrup on one side and chocolate syrup on the other side. And then a topping of Reese's Pieces on top.
I'm going to get into this thing, man.
Dink it.
Let's just eat it. Get a little peanut butter and a little chocolate at the same time. Make sure you're getting the right.
It's very cold because it's a snow cone.
It's very cold.
I'm not great at eating frozen things because my teeth are sensitive, but let me tell you, the taste is out of sight, out of this world, kind of like an alien.
Yeah.
That shaved chocolate milk is a genius
The
move.
frozen chocolate milk. I mean, is it possible to patent that? Can you patent frozen chocolate milk?
Just
Because
did it.
We need to do that. I mean, that alone. And then you throw in the chocolate and the peanut butter syrup.
I like going to this side and getting a little peanutty. Going this side, getting a lot of chocolate.
If E.T. had this thing in his hand and his life depended on it,
He never would have left.
no, I'd take it from him.
You'd assault E.T. for a snow cone?
He's extraterrestrial. I believe that his life is less valuable than human life, just by default. So,
That's
I mean,
not true.
if I got to choose between me and an alien, I'm choosing me every time, especially if he's got a snow cone that I
All
want to
we
eat.
have to choose is, will it snow cone?
Yes. This one is a shout out to the homeland, Link, North Kakalaki. This is the barbacone. We have got shaved pork, frozen pork is the cone.
Okay.
Is the ice.
So it's not ice, it is just the meat shaved.
They mixed pork into ice, so it's kind of a watery pork that was then made into the ice. And then on one side, we have a slaw sauce, and we've got a barbecue sauce on the other side, and then we've got the pièce de résistance. We got a baked bean garnish up on top of that thing.
Yeah, and as far as the pulled pork, I mean, I'm used to putting a snow cone in my mouth and letting it melt and just tasting it. But when this melts, it's going to turn into barbecue, which maybe that's a good thing.
I'm a snow cone purist, so I'm not going to be using the spoon. I'm going to be going in with mouth first. I want to honor the snow cone gods. So let's dink it.
In sharp contrast to me. I just wanted to make sure I got everything in one bite for this one.
The way I'm going to do that
I don't
is
think
by
I'm going to get a second bite.
opening my mouth wide enough.
And sink it. Tastes like barbecue in winter.
Yeah, like somebody's stash got frozen. Mm-hmm. Old Mother Cupboard.
Old Mother Cupboard died. May she rest in peace.
Old Mother Cupboard. Her heat went out. She froze to death, and she had barbecue waiting for the grandkids. And then you go in there and you're like, see a frozen old lady, and
It's like, man, that makes me hungry.
she's grasping it, and you start eating it right from her hand.
She's grasping it.
Just don't get any of the human flesh, and you'll be all right.
You know what? I mean,
That was a little more morbid than it should have been.
and the slaw sauce is pretty nice, man. It all really works well together.
There's nothing gross about it at all. Mm-mm. Who would have thought?
Not me.
I'm going to eat all my barbecue cold from now on.
Old Mother Cupboard, rest in peace.
Will it snow cone? Yes.
And here we have the sushi cone, the sushi snow cone. Now, I've seen people eat sushi in like a hand roll.
Yeah, usually not frozen though.
Which we've got the seaweed here. What you call that? Nori?
Nori.
Now, inside, what we've done is we've taken tuna rolls, frozen, and then scraped up, man.
Scrape. They just scraped, man. Why'd you have to scrape them?
You scraped the sushi, good gosh. And then over the top, we've got, I wanted to call that edamame sauce. I don't eat any of this stuff. That's why I don't know what it's called.
I can describe it. It's wasabi sauce.
Wasabi sauce on one
It's a wasabi syrup. So we basically syrupized all these different things. And then there's just soy sauce
on the other side.
On the other side.
But what person?
That's all the pieces of the roll. Well, come on, man.
It's cold too. But sushi comes kind of
room temp.
Room temp?
All right.
I don't like this part. I'll eat some sushi, but I won't eat the green stuff around it.
The green stuff. All right, here we go.
Take it. That edamame sauce. That wasabi. Whee!
Weirdly, it kind of just tastes like a very cold sushi roll. Makes you want to vomit?
A lot of that wasabi in my mouth.
It clears you out.
I mean, my sinuses or my GI?
Both.
Oh.
I don't know. I mean, it's so much like sushi that
the sushi side is not that bad. I can go in for more if I don't get too much of the wasabi.
The wasabi is strong. I feel like it's. I mean, this is not going well for you. Things are not going well for you.
I gag it first, and I'm like, I think I could like it.
That's what it's going to be like to take you to a sushi restaurant. I gag it first,
but then I love it.
Don't be alarmed. I'm going to enjoy this. The reason I'm going to say I'm not sure that it does sushi, or it does sushi, but I don't know if it's snow cones, is because I think it's exactly what a sushi roll is, but a sushi roll is just better on its own. And I think we've made a snow cone and a sushi roll worse by combining them in this way.
Yeah, and that soy side is so salty.
The soy side is salty.
Will it snow cone?
No.
No.
Okay, we are putting the shaved in shaved ice, Link. This is the shaved ice, meaning that it's just ice, but we have then put shaving cream syrup down the middle and aftershave on each side. That's the blue. Now, this is all non-toxic stuff. You can enjoy it.
I'll tell you,
to top this
I can really smell it, man. First of all, smell it.
It's refreshing.
It's like,
really refreshing.
It almost puts the wasabi to shame nasally.
Now, we have some hair. You have hair that comes from your person.
I have hair of the Link.
And I have hair of the Rhett. And we're just going to garnish this with a little bit.
I took some of this off the top of my head earlier. It's kind of oily because it's got my oils on
it. Specifically my oils.
Ugh.
Well, speaking of my oils.
That looks gross, man.
I've got I did that with one hand. You can do that.
With Rhett's?
Red spirit oil. Also, not made for human consumption, but also all natural, so it's not going to hurt you. You just want to
just yours.
Just garnish.
Okay.
Just a couple of drops on there.
Ooh. Oh, gosh. Man. I stopped going to barbershops because they smelled so strong. I never once thought, boy, I'd like to lick this place.
You stopped going to barbershops because they smelled strong.
It's like, give me a headache.
Okay.
That and it's kind of creepy. Gosh, you put a lot of hair on there, too.
Yeah, I want to know what it's like, man. I want to experience this.
It's like you got dead daddy long legs up there, but it's just your hair.
Let's do it.
Oh! Oh! Oh!
Oh, God.
Oh!
Maybe we gargle with it. I can't do it.
I got it.
It's so good. When you start spitting it out.
It's worse. Mine's down here now.
The aftertaste when you start spitting out.
I think what he's trying to say is it's pretty good. It's like surprisingly refreshing. Once you pop, you just can't stop.
Oh, it hurts my teeth. Will it snow cone?
No. And now, straight out of our nightmares, it's a blood cone. Okay, so this is frozen pork blood. It was boiled for safety, and then it was frozen, and then it was shaven. And that's pretty much it.
It's just...
it's a delicacy. That's a delicacy, is what I meant.
No, it's not. It's not a delicacy anyway.
Delicacy.
Nobody except like a warrior trying to prove something just drinks blood straight from an animal.
In the way that it's even shaven makes it look like some sort of shaven meat. It looks like an actual organ has just been ground up and formed into a cone.
If they serve snow cones in hell, this is what they look like. You know, oh, you want to cool off?
There you go.
There you go.
Let's smell it.
Oh. Oh, no. Oh, it's like that old catfish bait, that old blood stink bait that you get the catfish, you know, the nasty stuff they got on the shelf, bottom shelf at Walmart in the fish section.
So that the toddlers can reach it.
Stink bait. Hey, pick it up, boy.
Let the toddlers get it.
Yeah.
You don't even have to walk.
Go to aisle 17, Junior.
Crawl up to it.
Come back with that stink bait.
Now listen, this is the season finale, Rat.
Don't get that close to me.
You know what this means? Yeah. I got down the shaving cream. You didn't. But I need you to do this for us.
This is my nemesis, man. You know organs and bloods is not my thing.
It's coursing through our veins. And this pig gave it up. So
I haven't even
make a snow cone.
You can talk to me like that once I got it in my mouth.
But I'm just saying, I'm not gonna. So you.
Oh, come on! No, you've been on a streak lately, man.
You're gonna have to.
You've been really good at the last rounds of these things, man. Don't let the streak die.
You know what happens on a streak? Sometimes something gets snagged. I don't want to hit a snag, so I'm out.
You got to keep your knees up.
High knees.
Okay, here we go. Let's not delay this anymore.
How are you gonna? Are you gonna bite?
I don't know what I'm gonna do. But I'm gonna dink it first.
I just got a cramp in my neck. I can't go forward. You got your own hairs?
Yeah, I'm still getting hairs.
Dink the pork blood snow cone.
Okay, here we go. This is the first time I wanted to cry. I think I'm gonna cry.
The shaving cream came up.
Bro, it's so bad. It's so awful. Oh, it's so horrible.
It's bad, guys. I know you really wanted to know. So we had to find out for you. I didn't last long,
but it took a couple of seconds to settle in.
Oh my god! Yeah, it had to melt. Once it melted, it was like so irony.
I'm sorry I let you down.
The irony.
Dude, you did such a good job. Will it snow cone?
No! But you know what? Now you know. And you don't have to snow cone a pig blood just to find out. The question has been answered.
I hope you guys enjoyed that video. Listen, when it comes to the changing of seasons, as we're looking at summer, and even now it's kind of diluted a little bit. Like we don't even know what summer's going to look like. But as we're entering into this new season, it's also a time of new beginnings, right? It's this point of change. And so tonight, I threw out some questions to our student leaders about change, and they kind of discussed them. And then I want us to look at a different kind of change in Scripture. And we're going to be in Joshua chapter 1. So while our quarantines are going through their discussion, if you've got a Bible, go ahead and turn to Joshua chapter 1, and I'll meet you there right after this discussion.
3. Welcome back to the TSM Quaranteens Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about changes. And I'm not talking about changing your hair color or changing your style. We're talking about real changes this week. First question up. What was the biggest change? What was the biggest change that any of y'all have faced? Anybody? Like ever? Like just the biggest change so far in your life?
I think for me, I've had a couple of big changes, but I think the biggest change was halfway through my freshman year, I ended up moving to Mount Pleasant, and that was very rough because kids are mean,
Sure.
especially in freshman
Me
year.
too. I moved back.
I never
moved,
realized
and
that
then
he
moved
moved
back
at the same
time you did.
and I was like, I thought you went here for your whole
No,
life.
no.
I was like,
I did,
straight
but
up.
then I left after 8th grade, and then came back after.
And you changed, like you were real short and like
And then-
big, so we're just like,
Who is this man?
I think moving was definitely the biggest change in my life because I lived in the same place for 10 years. And then all of a sudden I moved to a place where I didn't know a single person.
That was me moving to Chapel Hill. I didn't know anybody.
I moved to Hartsbluff.
And I was just like,
yeah. And that was...
Wait, did you move from Pine Bluff to Hartsbluff?
The
Bluffs.
The Bluffs.
But how did y'all deal with those changes? Like, what were some things that you did to cope with the change?
I think at first I had, like, really bad anxiety attacks and, like, legit panic attacks about what was going on at school. And then finally I was just like, you know what? I don't like crying every time I come home.
Yeah, that's how you do it.
I prayed a lot about it because I didn't really know what to do, and I was very scared to even talk about it because, again, it was a new situation. But I also just kind of, like, figured out who I was as a person, like, more who I was as a person. And I think you have to become more comfortable with who you are as a person, and I think that's a change in and of itself. Because once you figure out who you are, become comfortable with that, and that, like, moment where you change your mindset, it's a lot easier. But it's also hard to get to that point.
I think because I was so young when I moved, it was a lot easier for me to, like, get over it. Because, like, when you're young, you're not actually thinking about, like, the long term. You're like, oh, I get to meet new people or whatever. And, like, I did. And within a week, I was, like, fine. Like, I was over it. Like, I had been kind of mad because I was like, why did we have to move, you know? But then, like, I met people and I got friends. So it wasn't that big of a deal. I was like, okay, this is fine. Like, it's, you know.
I think change in general, like when we're like faced with it, we're all like, no, this can't happen. Yeah. Just like, you know, but I think if you just change your perspective about the change, that's for me, is like, I did a lot of like moving just to Mount Pleasant though, and then when my mom and dad got divorced, that was a weird change, and I just kind of I just changed perspective on it, as like, well, a lot of bad was going on, so this is better for me to move, and so that's just like how I dealt with it. Just like, we about to have a whole new menu over at this school, so maybe it's better. So I don't think it's gonna be that bad.
This school offer pizza, but I get a cheeseburger at this school.
That's how it was from Hartsbluff to Chapel Hill.
My mom, whenever we talk about change, because me and her are a lot alike, like we don't deal with change really well, but I think the important thing when big stuff changes in your life is just kind of like recognizing like there's nothing you can do to control some of those situations, and I think when you accept that, it's easier to be like, but what can I control about it? I can control how I react, how I think, you know, like you were saying, changing your perspective, because I think if you look at the bad and you think about the bad, that's all you're going to be able to do, and that's not good vibes.
I mean, like my dad says a lot whenever we would have to deal with our different things, he'd be like, a new change is a different road and a new adventure, so you just gotta take what you need and see where it goes.
Yeah.
And that's just what we've been doing
for the past
16 years.
Well, kind of like what Olivia was saying, like it's kind of connecting back with when we had our lesson about like joy and happiness. You have to kind of control like your emotions during like this change. You have to just kind of be positive and push yourself when you don't want to be. And like I think it's really important to like know that you can control your body, you know, like God controls what's happening to you and like what's going through your head, but you have to choose you get the choice to choose what you do.
For sure.
So recently during quarantine, we're all changing a lot, but so what are the ways that we've changed since, you know, at the beginning of the virus till now?
I feel like I've learned like how much I actually enjoy socializing. Like honestly, I think I've had to learn how to entertain myself and like not want to kill my family every single day. Cause like honestly, being stuck in a house with like a little brother is just.
Yeah, I've got 2 of them.
Me too.
I have a 20-year-old sister that acts like a 5-year-old, but you know, we vibe.
I think for me, I like have learned how bad my procrastination can get.
Oh gosh.
Yo.
Like,
for
so,
sure.
like, even then, it's more just about AP tests, and I think this is, like, the biggest change that's happened for me in quarantine, is the AP test as a whole. Because I opened my AP Chem test expecting it to not be that hard, and then, in 20 minutes, they expected me to answer a short answer question with 11 parts. 11. So I learned that I shouldn't, and I'm trying to change this now, that I should not procrastinate, even though I can, and no one's holding me to not procrastinate. But that may have been a little confusing, but I just practically have changed how I procrastinate instead of
How you procrastinate.
yes.
Not that
He's
you're
become
stopping.
more skilled.
Not that you're stopping. But
I'm
you're
a
just
now
gonna
skilled procrastinator. That's
Yeah.
expert
Professional.
I'm a
procrastinator.
professional. That's gonna be on my resume. Professional procrastinator.
What about you, Emma?
Well, I mean, I've always been the person to find joy in the little things, but recently I've been, like, finding, like, anything a part of the day just kind of boost my happiness about it. Like, when I was, even though I have this horrible sunburn right now, I had an amazing day yesterday. Like, it was the most fun I've had in a while. So I'm choosing to be happy about that day than this horrible sunburn. It hurts so bad. So that's really just kind of how I've kind of changed a lot. And also my sleep schedule is the biggest thing that's changed in this life. Like, I don't have one. I go to sleep when I want to, wake up when I want to.
Nice. I appreciate that.
It's weird for me because I feel like I haven't really changed, but I know I have. It's weird because like I keep a schedule and I know that's healthy, but I just don't know.
Yeah, you go running every time you wake up. That's gross.
It's fun. I don't really
You
know.
gross. Grody.
I don't know what to say.
Well, mine's changed because it's hard for me to learn when there's not a teacher teaching me how to do it.
Preach.
And I can't ask questions. But yeah,
They email
And then when you
good
do,
luck,
and you don't get an
text,
answer until like
email
24
back.
hours later when it's
It's like-
too late.
it was due yesterday. It's tricky. I don't like when you do that.
Yeah, you don't understand the
And
translation.
you gave me 0 because I went to the bathroom. But it's fine.
Wait,
No
what?
names, everybody.
Ah, it's fine.
You
He
can
already
edit
knows
it
what he
out.
did.
You know what you did,
My mom
mustache
called-
man.
My mom contacted this. Okay, we'll talk about something.
So how are y'all dealing? What are some ways that y'all are dealing with these changes? Like, are y'all dealing with them positively or negatively?
Trying.
Yeah, I feel like I've gotten into a lot of new stuff since quarantine. Like, I started to garden with my mom, which has been really fun.
That's precious.
It's been really fun, and it's kept me busy. Like, I don't have to think about all the things that could be going wrong. I'm worried, like, you know, are, like, bugs going to eat my plants before they actually grow? And, like,
If I started a garden, my plants would die.
my
You could
planner
just
has
plant
become
an
advanced now.
Advanced planner.
I, like, will
You're a botanist.
I'll spend, like, an hour
You got
doing
the skill
my
up. Now
planner.
you're advanced.
How should us as Christian children lead people to change? I'm just kidding.
I think the biggest part in the, like, there's a lot of things that mix together, but I think the biggest part is supporting them and instilling confidence in them when they're at the lowest point. Because usually changes, like, there's positive changes, but there's more negative changes, I think, than there's positive changes. So during that, I think you have to instill, one, like, confidence by supporting them, but also, two, be the positive one in the situation.
I think you also need to comfort them. And
It's you need to comfort them, but also
you can't
kind of
listen.
stand back a little
Yeah.
bit because I know people don't like to be pressured with a bunch of people around them when they're in a hard time or a situation that they don't like.
And I think one of the most important things when you know someone's struggling is you don't always have to, like, say to their face. Like, that's why, like, you know, the Bible talks about, you know, praying over people. Like, you know, standing in their place before God and, like, praying that they'll have that confidence stuff. Because when you speak, like, those words, obviously, like, those have power. And, like, you know, it kind of can give them that extra confidence just knowing that you care enough to remember them, you know, in your daily quiet times and stuff. Because I think it's important, like, sometimes when, you know, my friends are going through stuff and they come to me, it's easy to sit there with them and, like, wallow in their, like, sorry. It's so easy to get sucked into that and just be like, I know, it's so horrible, like, all that stuff, right? But then I have to remember, like, if that's all you speak is that negative,
it's almost like
that's the path they're gonna take.
Yeah, it's almost like it's a lot easier just to relate to them rather than like stay
because
positive.
we've all been there.
Yeah.
We've all been like, this stinks.
But also, like, your closer friends are the ones that, like, you literally have the same exact life almost.
So I think it's also good to remember, like, what would I want someone to tell me during this time? And I think that's the most important way to think, especially if they're your close friends.
Exactly.
You know, just kind of be like, I'm always here for you. And, like, I think also guiding them and reminding them, like, what the word says honestly, because they may need to remember that. Because sometimes when you have problems, I know I just get so caught up that, like, I'm not even thinking about, like, what God tells me to do in those situations. I'm just, like, upset, right? And it takes someone to remind me, hey, like, chill, right? You know? And then I'm like, duh.
Then you remember that cheesy thing, God is greater than my highs and lows. And then you just like,
That's greater than your ups and downs.
But like whenever my family struggles with a lot of changes recently, and I just kind of like have to sit back and just be like, I mean, even though we're not really confident with how things might be going, I just say, God's got this. I just kind of have to remind myself and others around us that we can't control everything, but like we just kind of have to sit back and stop trying to rush to a solution now and try to find the answer in the change. I think we just need to sit back, listen to Him, and just kind of like, just comfort ourselves in Him.
Yeah, like I think whenever I'm trying to help someone like with changes, I'm kind of blunt with
Yes.
how I am. I'm just like, just get over it, because that's how I think, and so I just say what comes to my mind and how I heal. But I also need to think about like the other person and how they, what they need instead of just what they need to hear.
Important sometimes.
But not always.
I think like
the truth is important, but like
it's like
in
your
a different way.
delivery. It's your delivery.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Yeah. And I just think you need to like pray about like what to say to that person. Don't tell them like the first
Like
thing that comes to your
direction.
head. Yeah,
Pray for
because you're not
direction.
gonna say the right
For
thing.
sure.
I promise you.
If you're the one, are you okay? Well, don't ask that question. That makes
I
me
hate to
so
ask that.
frustrated. Are you okay?
Clearly, I'm not.
You
So
don't
don't
be
start
asking-
out with
I'm
that.
not sitting in the
If
corner
you're asking
crying
that
for no
question,
reason.
I think
probably not.
it's stuff
no.
like that that's like the most obvious example of like how we're supposed to be the light in like the world, because those are like the darkest moments whenever someone goes through something like a huge change, like a divorce. Like I've had friends go through that, and as someone who's never experienced that, it's hard for me to talk someone through that because I feel like I really don't have any place to say that. But then I remember like I do have something that they need, and that's the hope and like the reassurance. And I feel like if someone says something enough times around me, I think of it when I go through certain situations. Like I think of what they told me, and that kind of like gives me like a little encouragement. So I feel like it's kind of like the same when you have friends or people you know going through that. If you tell them enough times, like God's got your back. Like if you explain that, they're gonna start thinking
I think
it.
one thing you also have to add on to like this whole conversation is that you have to tell them that patience is important, because a change doesn't happen overnight. But also along with the patience, there are other things that can change that are completely in your hands. I think we disregard that as like Christians. We're it's always in God's hands. But there are certain things that you can't control. And I think I've learned that also throughout quarantine, that there are things where I can actually do what I need to do and do whatever God is telling me to do in that moment and change my life, or whoever is like a part of my life, and change that right then and there, because we do have that power in some instances. But if you don't have that power in that instance, then the person that's trying to help you through that change, like us, like you have to instill some sort of patience rather than being like, oh, it'll be over soon, because it may be a 3-month long thing.
Something we always say in my house, which is kind of blunt, like Faith was saying, but straight to the point. I feel like it's kind of needed, especially in quarantine when you're in this whole coronavirus situation where there's new laws and like all that stuff that we don't know how long to last. Like God has your back and He has your best intentions, but He didn't make you stupid. So like sometimes when you go through changes, you have to use the beloved brain that He gave you and use it to think what is the smartest thing that I can do to help myself, but also leaving room for God to guide you. You know, it's like I feel like sometimes we sit around just waiting for God to like
just
magically like snap his finger and everything change. But honestly, sometimes we're put in that place for a reason. You know, I feel like a lot of the bad things that have happened in my life, they were horrible in the moment, and I didn't like it. I didn't understand it. I was like, what's happening? But now that I've grown and gotten older and no longer going through that, I realized that like I learned something, and God gave me either some like new revelation or like a gift, or he built up my testimony so that I can help people now. I have more experience in hard things than I did like 5 years ago, right? And so I feel like sometimes when it comes to change, it's important to realize, and I know it's so hard, like you never, when you're going through something like so hard to go through, like you don't want to think, oh, it'll get better. Like that's not going through your head, right?
Next week, it'll be fine.
Like no one's thinking that. They're all just like,
when is this gonna be over?
Right?
Yeah.
But I feel like that's something you kind of have to push yourself to think.
Yeah.
You have to make it, like, keep practicing it until it becomes a mindset.
Yeah.
It's kind of like practicing gratitude. Like, you have to practice the mindset of, this can't last forever, because I have a hope that promises that.
Yeah.
That, like, at some point, I'm going to get through this, and there's going to be something positive that I gain from it.
Always. Like our AP US history teacher, Mr. Alex says. Positivity.
Positivity with screaming.
Everything balances out. For every bad, there always has to be a good.
And I've always,
that's just how.
that's also something that I've been thinking about
It's
in
like
quarantine. Because I've been thinking a lot about my future.
I'm just saying.
But I love you. Yeah,
It's
that's
an
what I said.
example.
I said over here, yin and yang.
It's like that, the second Mulan movie.
Yeah.
You know?
There is always a balance. Well, I've been watching Airbender for like the past couple of days.
It's on Netflix, so I
Season 2, here I go.
Or
But also,
Does
Couple Man
anybody-
3 when he's like,
No.
yeah.
Does
the water.
anybody have any other things to say about any closing remarks?
yeah.
What?
Thank y'all for hanging around.
Yeah, honestly.
Thanks.
Because I know it's hard to listen to.
Are
us.
traveling through our rabbit holes with us.
Just
So-
remember, there'll be a sunset tonight and a sunrise tomorrow morning.
I love
Oh my gosh, I love how that didn't come out throughout the whole conversation.
I thought he was gonna yell sunsets randomly. So, from what we've been hearing, change is hard, but there's always a sunset at the end.
Look on your shirt.
Yeah, but there's always a hope at the end. So there's positive ways, and just have a positive mindset, even though you're going through the worst. Now Brian is gonna take you through the word
Of the Lord.
of the Lord. I think it's Joshua. I could be wrong, but here's the Brian. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. I can't do that voice.
Hey guys, welcome to my office. I know, looks a little different from my backyard, but I thought since we're talking about changes tonight, I might change up the scenery, and I think this will do just fine. Listen, here's the thing. We all have experienced change. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. But change is unavoidable. It happens. Change is something that we're going to see time and time and time again throughout our lives. Again, we can't avoid it. But with change comes new beginnings. And new beginnings can be very exciting. But one thing you have to always remember is that for every new beginning, there is a new end. Think back a year ago. What kind of person were you? Think about the world around you a year ago. How much has changed since then? Shoot, you could look back 3 months ago and you can see dramatic changes in the way that our world interacts with itself, in the way that our world operates, in the way that we operate. Changes are constantly happening. Let me ask you this. What kind of person do you want to be at the end of this pandemic? What kind of person do you want to be at the end of summer? What kind of person do you want to be at the end of high school? In other words, how do you want people to describe you? Changes are constantly happening. It's a part of life. We are constantly changing into the person that we will become. Now, in the Bible, there was a man named Joshua. And he was kind of a hero. He was the guy that took over for Moses after Moses died. God had told Moses that he would always be with them and that he would lead them into the promised land. And God did lead Israel into the promised land, but Moses died just before they went in. Joshua, who was Moses' right-hand man, he got to lead Israel into the promised land. So we're going to look at two different parts of Joshua's life to help us in this theme of change and new beginnings. We're going to look at the moment that he rose into leadership, and we're going to look at the moment of his death. And while that may not make sense right now, I'm hoping that it will after we dig in. So if you have your Bibles, we're going to be in Joshua chapter 1. Now, before we get into the story presented here in Joshua 1, let me give you some context, okay? Let me give you the backstory, what was leading up to this. If you go into the book previous to Joshua, you'll find yourself in Deuteronomy. And if you go to Deuteronomy 31, you're going to see these pieces start to fall into place. You're going to see that Moses isn't the one that's going to lead them anymore, that it's Joshua who's going to be the new leader. Their focus was simple. God is with us. Take courage. If you go on to Deuteronomy chapter 34, you'll see that Moses died just before they pass into the promised land. God literally took his life on the mountain that overlooked their destiny. Towards the end of Deuteronomy 34, we see what the Bible says about Joshua. It was sad that Moses died, but Joshua was a great leader. He was the great leader that was going to take over for him, that was going to take them into the promised land, and this was a good thing. So we find ourselves here in Joshua chapter 1. It says this, "After the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord said to Joshua, the son of Nun, Moses' assistant, 'Moses, my servant, is dead. Now therefore arise, go over this Jordan, you and all this people, into the land that I am giving to them, to the people of Israel. Every place that the sole of your foot will tread upon, I have given to you, just as I promised to Moses. From the wilderness in this Lebanon, as far as the great river, the river Euphrates, all the land of the Hittites to the great sea toward the going down of the sun shall be your territory. No man shall be able to stand before you all the days of your life. Just as I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will not leave you or forsake you. Be strong and courageous, for you shall cause this people to inherit the land that I swore to their fathers to give them. Only be strong and very courageous, being careful to do according to the law that Moses my servant commanded you. Do not turn from it to the right hand or to the left, that you may have good success wherever you go. This book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do according to all that is written in it. For then you will make your way prosperous, and then you will have good success. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened, do not be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go." Now, let's skip ahead to the end of Joshua's life. And to find that, you'll have to go to Joshua chapter 24. Joshua 24, 14 and 15 says this, "Now therefore, fear the Lord and serve him in sincerity and in faithfulness. Put away the gods that your fathers served beyond the river and in Egypt, and serve the Lord. And if it is evil in your eyes to serve the Lord, choose this day whom you will serve, whether the gods of your fathers in the region beyond the river, or the gods of the Amorites, in whose land you dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." One of the things that can be said about Joshua's leadership is captured in Joshua 24:31. It says, "Israel served the Lord all the days of Joshua and all the days of the elders who outlived Joshua and had known all the work that the Lord had done for Israel." However, Joshua neglected to do something. He neglected to perform one very important task as the leader. He didn't apprentice a successor like Moses did. And this may seem like it's not a big deal, but it had a huge consequence for the entire nation. While people were sad that Moses had died, Moses had left with them a leader that he had trained to take over. Joshua was able to do greater things than Moses ever did simply because Moses invested in him. Specifically, the victory that Israel experienced in the whole book of Joshua was because Moses set Joshua up to win. When Joshua died, he told them to follow God, but didn't set anyone up to take his place. It might sound crazy, but the wheels literally fell off when Joshua died. Let's skip ahead to the next book, the book of Judges. Go to Judges chapter 2, verses 11 through 15. It says this, "And the people of Israel did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, and they served the other gods, and they abandoned the Lord, the God of their fathers, who had brought them out of the land of Egypt. They went after other gods from among the gods of the peoples who were around them, and they bowed down to them, and they provoked the Lord to anger. They abandoned the Lord and served the other gods. So the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel, and he gave them over to the plunderers who plundered them. And he sold them into the hand of their surrounding enemies, so that they could no longer withstand their enemies. Whenever they marched out, the hand of the Lord was against them for harm, as the Lord had warned, and as the Lord had sworn to them, and they were in terrible distress." The wheels fell off. When you see successful people fail in the long run, do you typically remember their successes or their failures? It takes a long time to gain a reputation, doesn't it? But how long does it take to lose that reputation? We're all going to be faced with a ton of decisions throughout our lives. And let's be honest, we're not going to get them all right. We're going to mess up. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't try to make this a great new beginning by making some choices based on what we hope is a great ending. The best decision that we can ever make is to follow Jesus. He's the only thing that will change your life for the better. Everything else is temporary. It's not easy to admit that we need anything or anyone, but it's true. We all have sin in our life which separates us from God. Jesus came to die to pay for the price of that sin, to rescue us. It's a free gift, but we have to accept the gift and begin a personal relationship with Jesus. Listen, if you'd like to begin a personal relationship with Jesus tonight, would you just text the word Jesus to 903-563-3321. That's 903-563-3321. Text the word Jesus, and we'll get in touch with you, and we'll let you know how you can have that personal relationship with Jesus. Listen, as always, I miss you. I wish I could see you. I wish we didn't have to do this podcast thing. Believe me, I really, really wish we didn't. But for as long as we're going to be in this situation, this is how we're going to do it, and we'll always be here. I love you guys, and I'll see you next week. Hey guys, again, thank you for joining us this week. I hope that God spoke to you through that discussion or through his scripture. And I pray that as we are experiencing this change of seasons, that you yourself will experience change spiritually. I pray that you see new beginnings ahead of you, and I pray that God would impact the world around you because of the changes that he is making in you right now. Listen, I love you guys. I miss you terribly. I can't wait to see you. Until then, though, the podcast will be here every week. Talk to you later. See you next week.
Thank you.